Thank you and good morning. And it is always a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to the Rotary Means Business group. Um, yeah, in terms of what I'm generally known for, it is business development, but it is specifically a concept called David and Goliath. David and Goliath. And concept, that concept is if you are the smaller of two organizations interacting. It could be that you are the smaller because you're less established. It could be that. It could be smaller because your reputation is not as big as the person that you're doing business with, or it could even on an international side. Quite often, when outstanding businesses arrive in London, it is pretty much that David and Goliath feeling where you immediately feel at a disadvantage. So I work on the side of the Davids. I'm involved in three accelerators in the United Kingdom where you're essentially showing people how to win their first business or break into a new market. So that's the best summing up of what I do. It's I train Davids to take on Goliaths. It's that kind of area. I'll drop my LinkedIn profile into the box, Ellie, and if anyone wants to link up, that's really cool. And before I get into the slides, it's completely appropriate um, to be thankful or thank for the commercial introductions that I've received over in 2025. Those of you that have done that, I've always thanked you. I've just been really blessed, and if I can help anyone the other way, you've only kind of got to ask. So let's get into the this thing about the euro, and this sessions from a business development perspective. It's absolutely not from a political perspective in any shape or form. And I've just dropped my LinkedIn into the box. So this is some of this comes from my experiences in Slovakia. Some years ago, I was consulting in Slovakia. Now I'm hoping that everyone can see that, Ellie, that first slide.
Yes, it's good.
Okay. You'll notice that the slide actually references technology and software, but it could be anything. It's just that the slides are going to be reused in about 3 weeks. So it's not, if you are not involved in software and technology, it's irrelevant. It's kind of it, it's the perspective. And what had happened in those days when Slovakia joined the euro was I was involved then with the British Slovak Chamber in coaching Slovak businesses what to do with this situation, what to do with the situation. So this draws on a bit of that, but it's absolutely not a political session in any shape or form. So it's not that. And substitute software for business, Ellie. I apologize. I should. When I was going through it this morning, I saw that and I'm thinking, whoa, if I just explain it. Um, why it helps, and when I'm saying this, I'm not Bulgarian. I've never had the privilege of being a Bulgarian or living in Bulgaria. I think I've been to your wonderful country maybe 15 times, maybe 20, I don't know. But it certainly doesn't mean that I've got any idea what it's like to be Bulgarian. So just hold that. However, it's all about first perceptions. It's all about first perceptions. And I can tell you for free that the perception of Bulgaria in England has changed. It absolutely has changed. It's changed in a very credible way. I know that because I'm representing different people in England on a commercial basis, and some not so. And even if you don't mind me saying, Ellie, when the guys came back from Sofia, they met you at the wonderful event in Sofia. But when your name came up to be a speaker for this business development event, um, the fact it was someone from Bulgaria, it was, oh, great, they've just joined the euro. It really was a very, the two things, the perspective was great, they've just joined the euro. Now, you might say, well, so what? But when you engage in business, the perception's everything. I think you already know that I was educated at the London School of Economics, whatever that means. So I have an idea that the lever had already been pegged with the euro anyway, and it's just, I'm not going to be flippant, like a white label exercise in some regards. But in other regards, it's had a huge impact. And I'm talking about London and I'm talking about Manchester. So it does a credibility a check. So whether you're involved in procurement or you're a vendor distributing your services or products or whatever you're doing, it has a disproportionate effect. It's probably not felt right now, and I'm not up to speed with the political perspective or the social perspective, or if you're in the supply chain, what that has done for you since this has happened. But from a business development point of view, it's a very, very positive move. It really, really is. I'll give you another anecdote, and I know that we're recording this, and I'm not under a non-disclosure agreement, so I really don't think it's a big deal, but it's a fact anyway. Um, I have been speaking to Barclays Bank about a trade mission from Bulgaria, and Barclays Bank get approached all the time to get involved in trade missions. You can imagine that. You probably can imagine that. And mostly their eyes are focused on the United States. Their eyes are focused on Dubai. Their eyes are focused on Beijing and Shanghai, usual top five suspects. But when I brought up, would you consider on your landscape for 2026, would you even have a conversation about partnering with the British Bulgarian Chamber of Commerce? Would you look at it? The first thing that was said, all right, those guys have just joined the euro. Okay. Now, you're sat there thinking, well, what difference does that make? Sure, but the starting position has been completely altered. I've had 13 conversations since January, Ellie, about Bulgarian businesses in the UK, and pretty much every conversation has started off with a reference about the euro in a very positive way. Now, how you convert that into meaning something back in Sofia or Varna or Plovdiv or wherever you're sat today, that's another thing. But the perception of, and it even spills over to technical competence and delivery excellence. You might be sat there thinking, well, okay, we've changed the euro. My guys are still as good as they ever were. My supply chain is exactly the same as it was. The technical competence of either myself or my team is the same. My fulfillment abilities is completely the same, but it's the perception is just altered. It's just altered. It's almost like a rethink. It's a rethink. It's almost a rethink. Um, I'm on this call as a South African, and I can't imagine you're going to send this to the South African embassy, Ellie. But there's nothing good that comes out of my home country. I'm constantly being asked, can you do things in London? And if I can, I will. And even in January, when I was doing something in the city, I dropped into the Institute of Directors and brought up with somebody something about South Africa. And I'm not going to give you the latest South African news. You've got better things to do than listen to that. It's none too good. And the first thing they did, they rolled their eyes. They rolled their eyes. It's almost like we were in a lift and I'd broken wind. They rolled their eyes because it's incredible to consider doing business with South Africa at the moment. Um, so there is this shift. There is this shift. Oh, that's how it feels here. That's how it feels. That's how it feels. The first thing that changes in business development, any of you that have got international clients, is to bring the euro into the conversation very early on. Because as soon as you do that, it alters the tone, it alters confidence level. Um, it works the other way around. It's a guy called Mark Hobbs. How you doing, Spence? How you doing? Great to see you, brother. What's happening? Good to see you. Well, I don't know if this is going to work for you, Mark, but it's to do with an insurance company in South Africa. The minute I said insurance company, he was really happy. He's a broker. As soon as I added the word South Africa, he was less happy. He was cool with me. I've known Mark Hobbs, blimey, 26 years. I don't know if I was that old. But he was happy to speak, but not about that. What's happening now is when I said, well, we've got a lady that can speak about AI and she's from Bulgaria, it jumped straight into, oh, those guys have just moved across to the euro. Okay, okay. It was almost as if all the previous things that you'd ever done, Ellie, was suddenly, oh, okay. But now that the government or whoever has decided that now's the time to join the euro, you must be okay. I mean, it's all about perception. It's about perception. It also means if you are interested in doing international business, it makes it a lot easier to discuss the value proposition. It makes it a lot easier. It cuts through things. It adds legitimacy, whether you agree with that or not. And I can only imagine what it must be like to give up a national currency. It's quite an emotional thing. But it enabled me to move much more quickly on. So when I was speaking to Barclays Bank about this thing, the truth of it is, and there's people on here that are financially astute, it was nothing to do with currency trading or anything. But the fact that the euro existed, it enabled me to forward the conversation on. Now, I was involved, it's a long time ago now, but I was engaged by the British Slovak Chamber to help chamber members rethink their sales strategy into Germany and the UK. Except the UK is not the eurozone, but it helped. People weren't even bothered where Nitra and Košice and a lot of people know where Bratislava is. It's the capital, but the key places for me are Nitra and Košice. Didn't matter that no one knew where that was. All that mattered was that Slovakia was in the eurozone. So I was coaching the guys. How do you build that into your sales narrative? For those that were involved in software, it meant the sales cycle looked more different. I'll explain this. What happens generally, and it's my brief experience in Bulgaria, I think I've had maybe 40, maybe 40 sales meetings in Bulgaria. Maybe. The the use of time is different. It's not better or worse, but it's different. In the UK, it's very difficult to move a sales conversation along. It's just difficult. Once you've got there, it's great because there's some very astute people on the call. Most things in the UK, the profit margin would be 300% of that in the Balkans, but you've got to get there. With a conversation that was happening before, it was, oh, so Bulgaria. Yeah. So how many times have you been there, Bob? Now, we all know that's irrelevant. Well, I've been going maybe 2.5 years. Oh, okay. And how do you find Bulgaria? And again, who cares how I find Bulgaria? I'm not part of the procurement. It doesn't matter how I find it or how many times I've been there. But it meant that the start of the conversation was very cluttered with, you might call it small talk, or you might call it, I call it orientation. Um, a couple of people even asked me where Bulgaria was, and one person asked me if it was safe. And that person, this was a meeting in London, which is semi-humorous, I suppose. I don't think London's that safe after 9 o'clock in the evening. I'd be happy to wander around anywhere in Bulgaria at 9 o'clock in the evening. All of that clutter is now removed, so it reduces the explanation. You don't really have to do any orientation about Bulgaria, the standard of education, the challenges of importing or exporting Bulgarian goods or engaging with Bulgarian supply chain. That it's all gone because the euro, it assumes legitimacy. And the strangest thing is, and I thought it was really strange, but it's kind of cool. For sure, changing currency does not improve technical ability in a country, or I've not seen that. I know some of you are very traveled, and you might say, no, no, no. When the euro comes, everyone's more intelligent. Oh, okay, well, I've not seen that, but um, with the introduction, Ellie, to that sales conference, at no point did anybody ask what you were going to talk about, what your technical background was. It just went out the window. It was, hey, yeah, Bulgaria. Oh, those guys have just gone into the eurozone. I said, yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. And I was sat with this lady, Ellie, called Tina Swan, and then she started talking about, yeah, Bulgaria's great. We went there on holiday. I think they went to Varna, I'm guessing. But I was expecting, Ellie, maybe like a half an hour conversation about why you should be the closing speaker and not this other guy. I was expecting that. It just went. It just went. Now, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and say now that the euro has arrived, every time you have a meeting with someone from the UK or in Germany, they're going to kiss and hug you and not want to talk about anything else apart from holiday resorts. And now you're in the euro, you must be okay. But this is just practical evidence that's happened since the 1st of January. Maybe I'm just lucky. Some people would say that. Now, here's the things that it hasn't changed any of that, to be honest. As far as I know, it doesn't change any of that. But the sales conversation is something different. Um, there is an expectation. I know that you're going to really be pleased about this, Ellie. There's now a really high expectation that when you speak at that conference, wow, we've got Ellie from the Eurozone. It's sort of it's altered the expectation quite considerably. This here, this does happen. It happened in Slovakia. Slovakia chose the euro just about at the same time that Range Rover started producing vehicles in Nitra. That kind of led people to think that the mechanical manufacturing standards of Slovakia were the same as Germany. And I'm not in manufacturing, but they're not. I mean, starting to get excited about. The UK's manufacturing is not as good as Germany, and this is real stuff here. Currency discussions. It kind of it's something that happened 3 times last year. I am under a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't talk about who I represented in England. But I reckon if you were to say, well, how did the sales conversation go? I would say, well, it took 5 meetings to get this over the line. And I would say that a third of the time was spent about currency. I had to re-explain how the lever was pegged against the euro multiple times, multiple times. Now, if you think that the current vendor which we displaced was based in India, it I would have said that anything would be better than having to deal with the Indian currency. Anything, even I don't know. But it took that out of the conversation. Um, all of that stuff about banking relationships and cross-border reliability, that went. All of these things have gone. Of course, you have to be in a sales meeting for that, for you to appreciate that. Um, there's another thing here, and I can't prove this yet, but going on last year, there was immense pressure on pricing. Like, okay, we're happy to uh, have this manufactured in Bulgaria, um, but we would expect a discount, not just on volume, but through the fact that we're having to deal with the lever. And there was this kind of perception that Bulgaria was an emerging market, which I thought, well, I've been to your country maybe, let's say it's 20 times. I don't know, it's not like a third world or emerging market. That's just how I see it. Blimey, you've got Endurosat are putting satellites. They've just done a joint project with SpaceX. They're not doing that in South Africa. Um, so there was kind of pressure, whereas the conversation I had about something else, which was in the first week of January, those conversations didn't exist. It just didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. There was no talk about, well, we need a discount because of this and this and that. It just didn't happen. It means that most countries in the UK, sorry, companies in the UK that export and import into the Eurozone, it's not a surprise that the key places are France and Germany. I presume that's not a surprise. Belgium and the Netherlands, I presume that's not a surprise. Um, that means that if you are a Bulgarian exporter now, you will just get what's called standardized treatment. You'll go into the same body of work that a German supplier would, or a French, Belgian, Netherlands. It all fits into that. Whether that helps you or not, I couldn't say. I'm not close enough to what you do, but it makes a sales meeting much, much more easy when terms and conditions can fit with what already exists, rather than this thing like, well, we're going to have to put you through a pre-qualification process. We've never used anybody from a Burgas before. We've never done work with anyone for Brusa. How does that work? I mean, the truth of it is, none of these things are risky, but it, it kind of puts pressure on you when you're trying to do a deal. So what happens? Your positioning will go up. That was the expectation in Slovakia. Again, I don't think it's a big deal on this call. Um, I was working with a company called Soitron, which is a huge Bratislava-based software company, got about 200 people, and I linked that company to the British insurance company Aviva. Aviva, it's a big insurance company in England, Aviva. And without going through the sales cycle and so on and so forth, um, because Slovakia was in the Eurozone and two other suppliers they were looking at weren't. So one was from Poland, this is Zloty, great software developers in Poland. The other was the Czech Republic, which is the krona. And again, if you ever go to the Czech Republic, there's some terrific banking technology there. But the fact that Soitron was euro, it removed a chunk of the procurement challenges, but also it was somehow, I think psychologically, was viewed well. If they're the euro, and the reason that they're euro is they want to do business with Germany, and they're doing that because they can, it kind of positioned them that it was much more credible. I'd like to think that my business development skills helped, but that's for Soitron to decide. And you have these things now. So if you're pitching for enterprise work, which is that David and Goliath thing, these things should not be conversations that you have. I mean, someone's saying to me in London, how safe is Sofia? I'm thinking, what? Wow. I mean, I don't know. You guys live in Sofia. As far as I know, you don't have a stabbing every day, do you? Do you have a mortality? I think in London last year there were 57 fatal stabbings that took place in the centre of London related to narcotics distribution. So that's better than one stabbed to death a week. As far as I know, Sofia doesn't have that. As far as I know, um, you don't have people driving around shooting live ammunition into nightclubs, do you? Welcome to London. I know you don't always see this on the BBC News, but it's what's happening. You can find it if you want. It's not a safe a place after 9 o'clock. Okay, depends where you're hanging out. So the stability, predictability, and maturity, it is kind of like a given. Forget it says software. Just forget that. Um, I think if you are doing international business development, or you want to do business development, or you're having to renegotiate business development, I would put the reference to the euro very early on in your storytelling selling. Very, very early on. I would not assume that people understand the value of it. So I would introduce it. Like, one of the reasons that people work with me is that we've entered the eurozone. That means the procurement processes are standardized. That means there's one less currency for you to deal with, and it's a reflection of the maturity of the Bulgarian economy, and we're getting a lot more interest because of that. I just thought I'd bring that up. It kind of sets the conversation kind of here. You remove a whole load of things by doing that, a whole load of things about currencies and terms and conditions and stability of the lever, all stuff that's not important anyway. But procurement will say that it is because they want to try and negotiate the best terms and conditions. You'd expect that, and then you can start talking about, because we've entered the eurozone, it's enabled us to rethink our own supply chain. We're doing very well in the euro market now. What a shame the UK is not in that market. But what it's enabled us to do is to realign what we're doing with the German economy, the French economy, whether that's the actual fact or not. It just gets people thinking differently. As soon as you start referencing the core of the European Union, it kind of elevates things. It's all about perception. It's all about perception. I say, unfortunately, it's about perception, but it just you just gotta roll with it. I mean, perception is such a ridiculous thing. I was in the Institute of Directors. If ever you've been to London, that's in Pall Mall. It's just a co-working space. I wouldn't. It's not that exciting. And I went in to see this guy Mark, and when I went in, it's, for those of you that know London, it's just up the road from what's called the Senior Service Club, and that's the ex-armed forces. I wouldn't call it a co-working space, but it's kind of like a club, a meeting area, or whatever. I'm sure there'll be something similar in Sofia. Anyway, I came from that to the IOD, and I went into the Institute of Directors to see Mark, and there was a guy I hadn't seen for a few years now. It's a guy called Gary Beard, and you'll never hear his name again. I've known Gary maybe 20 years, and how I know Gary is he's involved in something called the Territorial Army. Good for him. So every time he sees me, which is probably like, I don't know, it's not that often, but he makes a point of saluting me. Now, I don't ask him to do that. I don't think it's the most useful thing anyone could actually ever do. I don't ask people to salute me, and I don't care if they do or they don't. I was discharged from the South African Army in 1989, and some of you weren't even born then. But the minute he did that, a whole lot of people start like looking over, like who's this? You know, who's walked in? Like I don't know, some hot shot, big shot is in the house because it's all about perception. It's all about perception. I walked in and sat down, and I've never been served coffee as quickly ever. Now, that's not true because it positioned me as something. Now, you know me, and I've told you that that's 36 years ago. Where the hell did that go? It's just perception. It positions. So this thing about positioning, it's really important to get your head around. This is something that you can use. But if you don't say it, people can't hear it. If you don't say it, people can't hear it. And this is what happened in Slovakia. Now I worked on that project for 3 years, so it's not like I'm an expert on Bulgaria, but I did work on that project for 3 years. So I guess, Ellie, I know more about this than someone that hasn't worked on a project like this for 3 years, I suppose. And what it did by revisiting the sales cycle, by inserting currency, key phrases like stability, key phrases like this is an endorsement. I was using phrases then, and you have to use language like this carefully, where it's a recognition that Slovakia is a challenger economy. But I think it's reasonable to say, well, it recognizes that Bulgaria is a challenger economy. It's the Balkans tiger. That expression's been used. You can kind of wrap your nationality around what this means in terms of the sales cycle. You're lucky. I mostly have to apologize for coming from South Africa. Or if someone thinks I'm from Australia, I'm quite happy that they think that. There's no, the minute someone says, oh, you're from South Africa, how are things there? What am I going to say? Well, the crime rate's through the ceiling. We've run out of water. There's only 6 hours of electricity. Now, I get associated with all of that. It's not down to me, the 6 hours of electricity. I don't run it. I'm not part of the policing of Durban. I'm not responsible for the water supply. But that's the first thing. It does kind of enable you to rebrand, and it does enable you to start talking about the outstanding features of your offer because the platform to jump off is credible. I'm saying, well, it's a Bulgarian uh, innovation, and it's this, and this. And as you know, Bulgaria's just gone into the eurozone, and the Bulgarian economy. It gives me a different jump off point. People assume that there's far more competency than there was on December the 31st. But if you don't talk about it, people can't buy into it. So it gives a much cleaner starting position. You can have serious conversations earlier. Certainly with the Barclays thing that may or may not happen. And it's not linked to currency. It's nothing to do with that. It was completely linked to perception. It enabled us to get to a much more serious conversation earlier on. And it was almost, it was interesting, almost a bit surreal, because there was an understanding from Barclays that now that Bulgaria is part of the Eurozone, there's all kind of competencies that didn't exist on December the 31st. Well, that's not true unless you're telling me differently, that you're walking around Sofia on January the 1st and everything looks better. I'm guessing that's not true. Or suddenly You opened for business, I don't know, last week, and everybody was more competent, and there's people walking around with Euro t-shirts on. I think we know that's probably not the truth, but it doesn't matter. That's how it's landing. It's how it's landing. It's how it's landing. So what I would say, Ellie, to keep this bang on time, is that I would work out how you can introduce the euro change of currency into conversations. That's whether those conversations are with anything you're doing in Turkey or anything you're doing in the EU or anything you're doing with in the UK. It 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 does make the jump off point for those of you that are in business development. The jump off point is different. You're probably aware that we've just changed currency. God, what a process that's been. But you can only imagine the positive impact it's made on the economy. The number of people that want to do business now with Bulgaria, it's a lot more straightforward in terms of procurement. You've probably already got a procurement pathway with your German and French partners. We can reuse that pathway. It really isn't a big deal. Of course, it depends what you're doing. But if I was you, I would think, well, how can I make this an advantage to what I'm doing? How can I? So I'll close there. This is absolutely not a political endorsement of it, Ellie, because I've got no idea what it means to you, but only from a sales point of view. And as a foreigner who does sales in England, because I am foreign, South Africa, I can tell you it sounds differently. It sounds differently. It sounds differently. So I'll stop it there, Ellie. And that's I'll send you the slides and I will edit the technology bits out. Even I can do that.
Thank you very much, Bob. I think the software word there was not bothering people because you were clearly talking about the opportunities and the changes of the perception that the euro instead of leva brought to the Bulgarian businesses abroad. And I'm sure that's not only in UK and Germany, as you mentioned, these two countries, but I think it's in all other countries in Europe. I'm opening the floor to questions to you.
Yes, I
Theo?
have a question. Can you give us a few examples, like a few lines that we can use to like gently, like you said, you're probably aware that we just changed currency, maybe a few more where we can use that in a good way.
So, certainly, I'd be delighted to because this is one of the things that we did in Slovakia, and I don't know if you've been to Slovakia, but there's some highly competent businesses in Slovakia. But unfortunately for them, Slovakia was confused with Slovenia. I've got nothing against Slovenia or Slovakia. And then some people just were completely confused where it fit in. So the euro was used always almost to geographically re-engineer Slovakia. I think most people know that Bulgaria is at the far east of the European Union, but I would be using things like, and I'd be very upbeat as well. I'll give you some examples, but I do recognize that when I speak Southern Hemisphere English, and you got to have to kind of rethink unless you want to speak to people with a South African accent. So it sounds like this. It sounds like it's been a hell of a start to quarter one. Since we've moved across to the euro, it really has opened things up for us. So I'd use the phrase like it's opened things up for us. Um, it's been a very upbeat start for import and export. What I'm finding is that, especially in Germany, people are taking Bulgarian innovation a lot more seriously because it's more accessible because of the currency changeover. People are taking the skills that Bulgaria has, they've become a lot more visible. The consequence of that, it makes it easier to do business with us. So people are investigating what does the Bulgarian skill set look like. HR officers across the EU are now seeing that Bulgaria comes onto an approved pathway because it's now moved across to the euro. That's put a lot more pressure on the skills the economy has. The skills of the economy are a lot more visible. Is this helping you? I'm just chucking
Yeah, I
things
think
in.
yes.
Yeah.
Writing down.
Sorry, I speak a bit quick, but it's quite an upbeat conversation you could have. with the change of the currency, we now fit under the approved procurement list along with France and Germany. God, that's had such an impact on people wanting to work with us because we don't have the cost base of Germany. We don't have the cost base of Berlin and Paris. We've got the cost base of Sofia. I think it gives you the opportunity to say one thing and then add two or three positives to it. So I would, if I was to say it myself, it would be, as you can imagine, the change to the euro links our ability to the economies of Germany, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And what it's done, which is fantastic, it means from a HR point of view, we're on the approved list because the euro gives you that approval for procurement. It gives you that. And suddenly HR leads are looking at Bulgaria thinking, wow, look at the educational standards. You've got logistics people thinking, wow, look at the connectivity around the supply chain. It's giving people the reason to look at us because we're part of the main flow of financial activity, which is the euro. I mean, I know you're not going to edit this, Ellie, and put it on LinkedIn, but if it was down to me, the UK would have joined the euro. I know the UK economy is different to the Bulgarian one. But it's kind of like, well, it's another thing you got to talk about. The exchange rate between, sterling and the euro. Are those ideas helping you a little bit?
Yes.
Cool. So think of it, you can bring the euro up and then add to it the benefit case of dealing with you. That's the thing. If you just bring it up, oh, yeah, they're in the euro. But if you say, usually for procurement paths, the euro is straightforward because it aligns us with the procurement pathways of France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Spain. It just aligns us with the procurement. And what's happening, we're finding that people in HR, people in supply chain, people in manufacturing, because the procurement no longer has, well, okay, we need a thing about currency. People are looking at Bulgaria, and of course, what are they seeing? We're highly educated. We're completely reliable. Our standard of English is to a very high level. It's dead easy to get in and out of Sofia. By talking about the euro, it gives me the opportunity to talk about the benefit case of Bulgaria, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Somebody else have questions? Last 4 minutes of our event. Now is the moment to ask Bob.
Actually, no question. Only I want to say thank you, Bob. It was a great pleasure hearing you again with these new thoughts of you. You make us feel more positive and to push more on the business, with more confidence. Anyhow, thank you very much for that.
It's my pleasure. My experience, because the UK comes straight back to business development literally after New Year's Day, literally. And I've had some very specific conversations about Bulgaria. One was with a bank, one was about an acceleration program, and then there was Ellie speaking at this top event. And it definitely made a difference. So I'm not government sponsored. I don't know if your government are idiots. I've got no idea. I know that our government are. But it definitely was different. It was. So that's my experience. Yeah.
Thank you. Last word from somebody else?
Bob, yeah, I just wanted to thank Bob for everything. I actually got a few ideas where I can use this as to my advantage, and yeah, that's very cool.
Oh,
It's just a
fantastic.
different perspective of the whole thing that I haven't gotten until now.
Great.
I'm sorry for interrupting. If I can say a few words. In the last 5 years, we we succeeded on the international market, and it cost us a lot of effort to achieve the things that Bob showed in his presentation, and I would like to say that the challenges in front of the businesses in our part of the world, of Europe, are really exact mentioned in this presentation, and that I hope that the euro will give us the opportunities that we saw, but we have to be aware on the most important part of the presentation, and that is the risks and the things that we have to consider, the responsibility that is expected from us as an Euro country.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. Well, that's great feedback.
Yeah. Actually, I also want to thank Bob. First, that he constantly addressed me, so I felt like it's my personal lecture here. But in a conversation with Bob before this meeting, I told him that for me, changing from leva to euro is just like, okay, we switch the paper, whatever. Because of the level was anyway tied to euro for so long that for me it's really just changing the coins and the paper in my wallet, and that's all. But yes, that's a different perspective I didn't think about. So thank you, Bob, for bringing it to the table to people that are here in the call. I'm changing my opinion about the event, switching to euro, definitely.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Okay. So I think that's end. We'll have the recording download and upload on YouTube. I share the slides preliminary with people in the group for somebody who couldn't come. And of course, it will be great to have the entire presentation from Bob, and I'll forward it to everyone as soon as Bob is ready to give it to me with the small adjustments there. If nobody have anything to say, once again, thank you, Bob, and we're looking forward for your next call meeting with us.
Look forward to seeing you.